Average transaction prices for pickup trucks have skyrocketed, and they continue to climb thanks to trucks like these two right here. Now that's the 2019 Ram 1500 Limited, and that's the 2018 Ford F-150 Limited. Both of these trucks sit on top of their respective lineups, and they're loaded with just about every single option possible. So I'm going to take a look and see, first of all, if all of these luxury options are really worth it, and then second of all, which one is your money better spent on? So which one is better looking? Well, that's a tough call. To my eyes, the F-150 looks a little tougher, a little manlier, if you will. I think that's because of that C-clamp design around the grille, the way the headlights wrap around. I could lose this limited badge up here on the hood, and that's especially true when you see how cool these hood badges are on the Ram. Now overall, when you look at the front end of this Ram, it's a much more cohesive design with the grille and the headlights, and I think it absolutely looks like the more expensive truck. Now, I think the Ford is the kind of truck that would steal the Ram's lunch money, but after school, the Ram's going back home to its mansion. So we'll start with the thing that everyone always wants to know about these luxury beasts, and that's pricing. So here in Canada, this Ram as it sits is worth $85,000. Now the F-150 is actually cheaper than the Ram, so I know 80 grand is a ton of money and there's no way I'm even affording anything like this, but when I sit in the interior of this Ram 1500, I can kind of see the value. This thing is absolutely gorgeous. This limited model uses real wood accents, and what I really like is every surface has a different texture and a different look to it. There's no piece of this interior that feels like it was forgotten about. You know, you have the stitching and the leather goes into this sort of diamond plate material, and then there's the wood, which feels absolutely beautiful when you touch it, and then even, you know, the little metal strip here, it has this brushed metal finish to it. You could have just left that alone, but Ram looked at all of these little details, and they really made a gorgeous interior. And the icing on that cake has to be this massive 12-inch touchscreen. Now, sure, it looks good, but it also works great. You know, Uconnect has always been a fast, intuitive infotainment system, and put into practice on this massive touchscreen, it still is. It's simple to figure out, and one of the things I've noticed, or should I say one of the biggest benefits, I think, is the navigation. Because the screen is so big, you're just able to see such a large area on the map. You don't have to zoom out as far to see more, and I just like it. If you're driving somewhere you don't know where you are, it gives you a really great sense for, you know, major roads or highways or whatever happens to be around you. So yeah, the big screen with the map on it looks awesome. And then if you go to the home screen, well, you can have half the screen as a map and half as your radio controls, and half of this screen is basically as big as everyone else's screen, so you know, you're still coming out ahead. We also have the optional Harman Kardon stereo system in this Ram. 19 speakers. That's 9 more speakers than what's in the F-150. And it sounds, in this truck, the sound is crystal clear at high volumes. And the fact that the interior is already so quiet from, you know, outside noise just makes the audio experience that much better. So how does the interior in the F-150 stack up? Well, to my eye, it's not nearly as luxurious looking. It just doesn't have all these beautiful materials that this Ram does. There is nice real wood accents in the F-150, and the blue leather in our limited model is beautiful. But overall, just from a style standpoint, this Ram looks like it's worth 80 grand. The F-150 still has some, you know, plain black plastic buttons and the black plastic around the center stack screen, and to me it just looks a little cheap in some spots. Now for infotainment, Ford uses the Sync 3 system, and it's a really nice system as well. It's very fast to respond, it's nice and intuitive and easy to figure out. I've had no issues using it at all. But now that Ram has this 12-inch screen, what can I say besides Ford's screen suddenly looks a little small? One area where the F-150 does exceed on the interior though is front seat comfort. Those blue leather seats in our limited model, they're nicely contoured to your body, and they have way more controls than you do here in the Ram. They have multiple lumbar supports, and they'll give you a massage. These seats in the Ram are fine, but they're just plain leather seats. They're kind of flat, and they just have the classic, you know, sort of 2-mode lumbar support. At-hand storage is probably a little better here in the Ram too. You just get this configurable center console, which allows you to slide these cup holders forward and back. The center stack, your center console here, I should say, the lid opens by itself, and then the whole thing opens to reveal a big, deep storage area down there. Plus, there's a USB port in here, and there's 4 USB ports, 2 regular and 2 USB-C up here in the front. So let's take a look at the rear seat on the Ram here. Now, this crew cab offers 45.1 inches of rear seat legroom, which is quite a bit. Now, there are some other improvements here that make a big difference too. First of all, a totally flat floor. Ford has had this for a long time, and now Ram does too. No tunnel in the middle. Now, another neat feature back here are these Ram bin cargo areas down here underneath the rubber floor mats. You can lock stuff up in there, and then it's hidden away. Now, of course, the seat bottoms fold back to give you this other storage bin and more space down here. But what the real party trick on this Ram crew cab is that when you grab this little handle and you pull out, this seat actually reclines. You can see the difference to the other one. So the rear seat passengers in this Ram 1500 are really well taken care of. Not to mention, they also get 2 USB ports each, 1 regular and 1 USB-C, heated and ventilated seats, and then of course that 115 volt plug right down there in the middle. All right, going from the Ram to the Ford back seat, first of all, I noticed that the Ram's doors actually open wider. The doors here on the Ford don't quite open to 90 degrees. The Rams are quite close. Now, over here in the Ford crew cab, we have 43.6 inches of leg room, so a little less than the Ram, although it's not a huge difference in real life. Now, these seats, which are the same blue leather as the front, and they are quite comfortable, fold up. And then in terms of amenities, things are nearly the same. The Ford gets 2 USB ports, but no USB-C. It gets the same plug, heated seats, but no cooled, and then a 12-volt power outlet as well. So quickly, let's take a look at the bed of these two trucks. Now, both of these trucks have an automatic feature where there's a button on the key fob and you can drop the tailgate using that button. Now, both of them are damped, and that's actually new on the Ram this year. So they both come down nice and slow, but what I found interesting is the tailgate on the F-150 is heavy. It's very heavy. The tailgate on the Ram is quite light. So I think there's just more assist on the Ram when you're lifting it back up, and it feels like there's no assist on the Ford. Now, looking at tie downs, this Ram has a new rail system which allows you to move the tie downs front and back, similar to what Toyota and Nissan use, but I still like what Ford has better. The box link system allows you to take those cleats out and put in a number of different accessories which Ford will sell you, and that to me is a smarter option because it's just more useful and more versatile. So another big deal with these luxury trucks today are all the driver assistance features, and both of these are packed with them. So first of all, I'll show you the cameras. So let's look at the cameras first here in this Ram. Now, both trucks have 360-degree cameras. So this is the standard view, and I'm a little surprised that it only uses the top quarter of the screen, and you know, the image isn't a little bit bigger. Now, you have these different options up here. So, you know, you have rear cross path, front cross path, and that's a really, really wide angle it has. You can get the front view and the top view, or this is sort of the trailering view. You have these lines which move when you turn the wheel, but then the feature I really like is once you get close to your trailer, you can zoom in on the ball so that you can drop it exactly where it needs to be. Boom. The cameras here on the Ram work really well, and the image quality is quite good. I'd say a little better in that F-150. Let's go take a look at the cameras there. So let's take a look at the camera system here in the Ford. Now we get the same views as in the Ram, that overhead view and the rear view, although in the Ram the image is a little bit sharper looking. Now if you want to cycle through the views here in the Ford, it's actually a physical button, and I like that. I like that a physical button controls the cameras. Now the first one is a rear view, then you get the rear wide view, back to the start, and then there is a front camera here, but you have to put it in drive, so I'll just do that real quick. So you can also access the nose camera, you can get the front view or a front wide view as well. Now back to reverse. The one thing that the F-150 has is this black line in the center, which actually shows you where your ball is going to end up. And once you get close, it has, just like the Ram, a zoom in feature, so you can zoom in on your hitch ball and line it up perfectly with your trailer, just like that. Both of these camera systems are really great. The one in the Ram is just a little bit better because it looks a little nicer and the images are just slightly larger. Other driver assistance features include adaptive cruise control on both trucks, and both have stop and go, which means that in stop and go traffic you can leave the adaptive cruise on and it will actually take care of the gas and the brake for you. So besides that, both of these trucks feature forward collision warning, lane sense with lane departure warnings. This Ram has blind spot monitoring, and so does the Ford, and both of them will look beside your trailer to check your blind spot all the way back there for you. So some really smart features. Hill start assist, so it'll apply the brake if you're on a hill until you take off. However, there's actually two different safety features on this Ram, which have kind of gotten in the way for me today. Take a look. The issue is with the rear park sense braking assist. So I'm out here just on this gravel road and I'm gonna do a 3-point turn. So watch this with me. So I make my left, reverse. Now you'll see all the cameras come on. Now I can clearly see where the ditch is. Now I'm backing up. Oh, I see some foliage, that's fine. I can run into that. Oh, boom! The truck just slammed on the brakes. I know that that's just some green stuff. I can push into that stuff to get myself a little bit of extra space when I'm turning around. So I know what Ram was going for. They wanted the truck to automatically stop if it's gonna hit something. But the issue is, I'm smarter than this system. I've also had it where you're backing up and I'm coming over a curb and I know my rear end's gonna clear the curb, but the truck suddenly slams on the brakes because it thinks it's gonna hit. So I would recommend going in here and we're gonna turn the braking assist off. This thing has so many cameras on it, that should be all you need. Let me show you another sort of annoying safety feature on this Ram. I put it in drive, and if I have the door open, I'm up here on the lawn right now. I've been moving around just grabbing different shots, and sometimes it's easy just to hop in, leave the door open, and just move the truck an inch. So I'm in drive, foot off the brake. Oh, right away, auto park enabled. So now this will just flash until I go back to park, and then I shut the door. And back to drive, turn the parking brake off, which is electronic down here, and then I can go. Basically, they just don't want the truck rolling away without you, and I see where you're coming from, Ram, but sometimes it's just convenient to be able to roll a couple inches with your door open. So to me, that's just a bit of an annoying, overbearing safety feature. So let's talk about the drive here. So we have the Ram 1500 with a Hemi V8 making 395 horsepower and 410 pound-feet of torque, sent through an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, this truck, very typical naturally aspirated V8. It's very linear power. It comes on smooth, nice power down low in the rev range, and this V8 sounds good. There's no doubt that this Ram sounds better than the F-150 does. Plus, I know some of the sound in an F-150 is fake and being pumped in through the speakers, and just because I know that, I don't like it as much. With this redesigned Ram, the engineers did a really nice job at making it drive lighter than the previous truck. It feels a little lighter on its feet, it doesn't push as wide through corners, and when you're cruising in a straight line, the suspension is really supple. We have the 4-corner airbags here, but it eats up the road imperfections, really smooths things out for you. And then in terms of the steering, it's a little heavier here than in the F-150. It's not that heavy, but I do think the Ram gives slightly better feedback. through the steering wheel. Because it's a little bit heavier, I am getting a little bit more back on what the truck is doing and how it's moving. The F-150 steering is a little more numb, and you're a little more isolated from the outside world because of it. I'll also touch on the mirrors quick. We don't have towing mirrors on either one of these trucks, but here in the Ram, I still get a convex mirror up in the corner. That's a nice touch. Now the Ford mirrors, I think, are maybe just a little bit bigger, but without a convex, it doesn't make a big difference. Having that there, it makes a big difference, so I appreciate that from the Ram. The fuel economy story is interesting here as well. So this Ram, first of all, Natural Resources Canada, they haven't rated the 2019 Ram yet, at least it's not on their website. So we're just gonna talk EPA. So the EPA rates this truck at 15 miles per gallon in the city, 21 on the highway for a combined 17 miles per gallon. Now our F-150 is rated at 16 miles per gallon in the city, that's one better, 21 on the highway, that's the same, and 18 miles per gallon combined, that's also one better than the Ram. So the crazy thing is the Ford is getting slightly better fuel economy, and you're getting 60 extra pound-feet. So it's a considerable amount of extra power that you're getting, and you're gonna get slightly better fuel economy. And adding to that fuel economy story is the battle for fuel tank size supremacy, and so far Ford still wins that battle. Now the F-150 has a 136 liter, that is 36 gallon fuel tank, and here in the Ram we only have 124 liters, that's 33 gallons. So slightly smaller here in the Ram, but you know, still two really large fuel tanks which are going to get you a long range. Okay, that's enough from the Ram. Let's go get in the F-150. We'll drive it around a little bit and talk about some of its strengths and weaknesses. So getting in this Ford out of the Ram, what do I notice right away? The very first thing is how much stiffer this truck is than that 1500 is. The suspension here just really doesn't soak things up quite as well. So you feel a lot more of, you know, every little bump and thing in the road. The other thing that's immediately noticeable is how much louder this F-150 is inside than that Ram. There's just way more road noise coming through off the wheels, and it's raining a little bit now, and even just hearing the rain on the windshield, I can tell how much louder it is in here than it was in that truck. So, you know, the Ram just has better cabin isolation, it's quieter, it rides smoother, and then the steering wheel is where you get more of your feedback from. In the F-150, it's kind of the opposite. It's numb steering wheel, and then it's a bit of a loud interior, and there's lots of feedback coming in through the suspension and through my butt. And there's another immediately noticeable difference. When you nail the throttle, this F-150 is quick, man. It is quick. Now, I don't have any like private roads to do a 0 to 60 time officially, but just trust me when I tell you that this 3.5 EcoBoost in this truck is definitely quicker than the Hemi in that Ram. And you can tell it's a turbo. You know, it has a little bit of lag when you first put your foot into it, and then even once the power comes on, it takes a second to really feel that turbo power, but when it hits, this thing is powerful. Ford already wins the power battle, but what's even crazier is that for 2019, Ford is actually putting the high output 3.5 liter EcoBoost into this F-150 Limited, which is just going to make it that much more powerful and that much more capable. This F-150 uses a 10-speed automatic versus the 8-speed over in the Ram, and I like both these transmissions. Neither one of them really hunts for gears, and they both seem to always know where they want to be. I guess the biggest advantage is just with the 10-speed, you're going to have, you know, that much better of a gear ratio when you're cruising at highway speed, hence the reason you're getting slightly better fuel economy out of this Ford. Now, when looking at driver assistance features, basically everything here is the same as the Ram. One of the features this Ford has, though, that the Ram doesn't, is the Pro Trailer Backup Assist, which is a feature I really like. I've used it a few times, and it's intuitive to use. It basically, you turn the knob to the right or to the left, and your trailer will go to the right or to the left. If you can take a little bit more stress out of trailering, why not? So that's something you can get only here in the F-150. Also helping fuel economy in the F-150 is the stop-start system, and in my experience with it, it works seamlessly, never really gets in the way, and when it starts back up, it's not a big jolt, you know, it's quite smooth. Oh, and for the beds, I can't forget about access. So here in our F-150, we have that clever forward bed step, which comes out of the tailgate. Now in the Ram, our Ram has no bed step, but they actually have come out with a dealer installed accessory step that kind of tucks up under the corner of the bumper. It's not much, and it's definitely not better than this forward step, but it is nice to see that Ram at least has an option if you do want to step up into your bed. So is all the tech in here really worth it? That's what I asked off the top. Well, I'll tell you my opinion. The active driving aids, the lane keep assist and the lane keep warning, I normally just shut them off. It's nice that you can shut them off too, by the way. You know, I can see the lines. If I'm drifting over the line, I don't need the truck to tell me every single time. Sometimes I know I'm drifting. Sometimes I want to cut a corner tight or something. So they just get a little bit annoying over time. On the flip side of that though, there is one luxury feature on trucks which I absolutely love. I think it should be on every truck, and that's a 360-degree camera. Now, of course, I don't need the cameras to drive. You shouldn't need them, but they're so helpful once you have them, especially when you're in a yard. If you're, you know, kind of navigating through a lot of trailers or implements and stuff, it's great to have more views. And the one I really like is the nose camera. Being able to pull up as close as you can to something when parking is a big benefit. So definitely you want to get as many cameras as you can when you buy one of these trucks, although maybe you could take or leave the driving aids like I could. One other little thing here in the Ford, a powered tilt and telescoping steering wheel. And that's, again, just another nice small convenience feature to have. And over there in that $85,000 Ram, that's still a manually powered wheel. I gotta move it myself. In trucks so expensive, I want everything to be powered. This F-150 Limited has a lot of smart features, and it packs a serious punch under the hood, which is only going to get stronger when the high output EcoBoost arrives for 2019. But from a straight up luxury perspective, I think you have to choose this 2019 Ram 1500. The interior is absolutely gorgeous. It rides down the road comfortably and quietly. And then when you look at the technology, that 12-inch touchscreen, it's not just impressive for a pickup truck, it's impressive for any vehicle. And that's just one of the reasons why I think the 2019 Ram 1500 Limited is the nicest luxury half-ton truck, period. So as always, guys, make sure you hit subscribe to TFL Truck and come right back here for more news, views, and real-world reviews. See ya!